These are the headlines we're following at this hour. Preparations are underway for the first standalone summit between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan later this month, with the leaders possibly discussing making the trilateral talks a regular meetup. Extreme heat continues to grip South Korea, with the capital Seoul seeing the hottest day of the year amid rising cases of heat-related illnesses. South Korea's trade balance records a surplus for the second straight month, largely on decreased imports as exports fall for the 10th straight month. Good afternoon. Working-level discussions are underway for the upcoming summit between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan later this month in Washington. In what will be the first standalone three-way summit, the leaders are likely to discuss holding such talks on a regular basis in hopes of bringing their cooperation to a new level. Our Pei-Ji has the details.
The upcoming Trilateral Summit between the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan, set to take place on August 18th, will be an opportunity to further strengthen cooperation between the three countries. That's according to South Korea's ambassador to the U.S., Cho Hyun-dong, who noted that the upcoming event will be the first summit to be held at Camp David since President Joe Biden took office. Speaking to reporters in Washington on Monday local time, he explained that the venue for the summit underscores the emphasis U.S. President Joe Biden places on the trilateral cooperation.
This shows how much President Biden thinks of his relationship with our presidents, as well as the relations between South Korea and the U.S. and the trilateral relations between South Korea, the U.S. and Japan.
If the summit takes place, it will not only be the first visit to Camp David, the presidential country retreat, by a foreign leader since Biden took office, but it will also be the first since 2015, when former U.S. President Barack Obama was in office. The ambassador added that Seoul has been playing a leading role in developing the trilateral partnership, something that was made possible because of improved relations with Japan.
I believe improved relations between South Korea and Japan is what took the cooperation between South Korea, the US and Japan to a new level.
Another senior official also noted that officials from the three countries are discussing whether or not to hold a trilateral summit on a regular basis from now on, with the leaders will make the final decision. The official also added that the issue of Japan's plan to release wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant is not on the agenda for the upcoming summit. Pei-Ji, Arirang News.
The U.S. warns of imposing sanctions on North Korea and Russia if necessary, amid concerns over increased military cooperation between the two countries. That is according to U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller on Monday, when asked about the Russian defense minister's visit to Pyongyang last week to mark the 70th anniversary of the Korean War armistice. The spokesperson, without giving any more detail, noted Washington previously imposed sanctions on North Korea, as well as on those linked to Russia's war efforts, adding that it will not hesitate in the future. The remarks also come after earlier reports that Ukraine has been firing North Korean rockets seized from a ship that was potentially headed to Russia, indicating a possible weapons trade between the two countries. President Yoon plans to execute swift recovery measures and provide subsidies addressing various safety issues in the country. During a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, Yoon touched on the nation's efforts to recover from the recent heavy monsoon rain, pledging financial support, particularly for farmers and small businesses. Yoon also asked government ministries to conduct an investigation into underground parking lots built without sufficient reinforcement, saying that the construction sector's vested interests have comprised public safety. Regarding the teachers' protests that continued over the weekend, the president called for a new procedure that will protect their rights and authority in the classroom, effective from the second half of the school year, with sufficient discussions on relevant laws on child abuse and teacher support. Now, extreme heat continues to grip South Korea, with the capital Seoul seeing the hottest day of the year. Concerns rise over heat-related illnesses amid surging cases, with at least 13 confirmed dead from the extreme heat. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The intense heat wave here in South Korea has continued for more than a week, And now the capital Seoul is forecast to reach a daytime high of 35 degrees Celsius on Tuesday, marking the highest temperature this summer. Daejeon is expected to reach 36 degrees Celsius, with Hwasun County in Jeollanam-do Province forecast to hit 37 degrees. While rain is expected to fall in some parts of the country, it won't be enough to quell the intense heat wave. And the prolonged heat wave has also turned deadly, as over a dozen people have died due to heat-related illness this summer. According to the official tally from the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there have been at least 1,100 heat-related illness cases this year and at least 13 lives being lost this summer. The majority of those that have lost their lives due to the heat have been elderly farmers. It can be especially dangerous for farmers working inside greenhouses, as temperatures inside can get far higher than outside. For instance, with an outdoor temperature of 30 degrees Celsius, the temperature inside a greenhouse can reach 44 degrees. At the peak of the afternoon, with the outdoor temperature at 34 degrees, the reading inside the greenhouse can spike to 52 degrees. Experts warn that the elderly, who are slow to recognize symptoms, and those with underlying cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases may be particularly at risk and should refrain from outdoor work as much as possible between 12 noon and 5 p.m. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's trade balance has recorded a surplus for the second month in a row. This is largely led by falling import prices as exports fell for the 10th straight month despite a strong performance in the auto sector. Our trade correspondent Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
South Korea's trade balance was in the black for the second straight month last month on the back of rising auto exports and falling raw material prices. According to data released by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy on Tuesday, the country's trade balance was over $1.6 billion in July, with exports coming to just over $50 billion and imports at over $48 billion. This surplus was largely due to import prices, which fell by more than 25% compared to the same month the year before. Prices for oil, gas and energy fell by over 46% on-year across all three sectors, leading to the sharp decline in import prices. However, outbound shipments from South Korea fell by over 16% on-year. The ministry attributed the decline to the base effect due to record-high exports last July and the continued slump in semiconductor exports. Chip exports have been on a consecutive on-year decline for the past 12 months, with July's outbound shipments of semiconductors falling by 34% compared to last year. Falling oil prices have also led to the decline in the value of various petroleum products, which also contributed to the overall decrease in total export value. Meanwhile, exports across the auto industry, mechanical and household electronic goods sectors rose. Auto exports rose by 15% on-year on the back of rising popularity of eco-friendly vehicles around the world and recorded the highest total value for the month of July. This is the 13th month in a row that auto exports have seen an on-year rise. Outbound shipments of materials to the United States for use in batteries for electric vehicles also rose significantly in line with the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. In addition to South Korea's active response to the IRA and CHIPS and Science Act, its return to Japan's trade whitelist as of last month is expected to have a positive impact on the country's trade balance in the near future. The government also highlighted its high-level cooperation with major Middle Eastern countries such as the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia as part of its trade policies. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The price of U.S. crude oil futures in July recorded their largest on-month increase since January 2022. According to Reuters on Monday local time, U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures increased by around 16% in July, and Brent crude futures also rose 14%. The rising trend comes amid concerns of global supply tightening due to reduced production by the OPEC Plus group of countries. Expectations that the global economy will improve, along with the U.S. and European central banks' soft landings, were also behind the increasing oil price hikes. International efforts are underway to work around the now suspended Black Sea grain deal that would ensure safe passage for Ukraine's exports of grains until Russia's recent withdrawal. Amid rising concerns over food shortages, Ukraine and Croatia are working on an agreement to open a new route. Yoon reports.
Pope Francis on Sunday called for prayers for Russia to restore the grain shipments from Ukraine through the Black Sea Initiative so that millions who suffer from hunger can be saved. Speaking after his weekly Angelus prayer at the Vatican, he said the destruction of the grain deal is a great offense against God because grain is his gift to feed humanity.
Let us not cease to pray for beleaguered Ukraine, where war is destroying everything, even grain. This is a great offense against God, because grain is his gift to feed humanity. I appeal to my brothers, the authorities of the Russian Federation, that the Black Sea Initiative may be restored and grain may be transported safely.
The Black Sea Grain Initiative that ensures Ukrainian grain can travel into international waters of the Black Sea, avoiding mined areas on land, was negotiated in July 2022 between Turkey, the UN, and Russia. Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of Europe, and the deal helped stave off worsening of global hunger and prevented a surge in food prices worldwide. The deal also allowed Ukraine to export grain from its seaports despite the ongoing war. But Russia decided to suspend the deal on July 17th, claiming that the part of the deal allowing Russian agricultural exports was being negatively affected by Western sanctions. On Monday, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba held talks with his Croatian counterpart to discuss the possibility of using Croatian ports on the Danube and the Adriatic Sea for the export of Ukrainian grain. Restoring a route for Ukraine's grain exports is key to keeping down food prices worldwide and preventing millions from suffering hunger. The United Nations reported that supplies transported under the Black Sea Grain Initiative by the World Food Programme directly supported people in need, and that as of July 2023, the WFP procured 80% of its global wheat grain from Ukraine under the initiative. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials said that on Monday, Russian ballistic missiles slammed into an apartment complex and a university building in President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown, killing 6 people and wounding 75 others as the blasts trapped residents beneath rubble. Ian, Arirang News.
Now on to the latest in the deadly suicide bombing in Pakistan. Islamic State has reportedly claimed responsibility for the bombing that targeted a pro-Taliban party's election rally. Our Yoon has more.
At least 54 people are dead in the town of Bijor in northwestern Pakistan after a suicide bombing targeted a pro-Taliban party's election rally on Sunday. The death toll included at least 5 children and left around 200 wounded. Islamic State in Khorasan province on Monday local time claimed in a statement that they were responsible for the bombing.
I don't know what the cause was, but there was a sudden blast, and within moments, dozens of people were lying dead and injured on the ground.
When we reached the convention and heard speeches being delivered from the stage, we were standing to welcome our leaders when suddenly a blast occurred, and then we were not aware of ourselves.
Sunday's bombing was among the worst in northwestern Pakistan in the last decade. Around 400 members of the Jamiat Ulema-e-Islam Party, a key government coalition partner headed by hardline politician Fazlur Rahman, were waiting for speeches to begin when a bomber detonated an explosive vest near the stage. Rahman appears to have not attended the rally. Abdul Rashid, one of the party's senior leaders, said the bombing was aimed at weakening the party, but that, quote, such attacks cannot deter our resolve. Police had suggested in their initial investigation that Islamic State in Khorasan province was a suspect. The Pakistani Taliban, which some analysts have suggested as possible suspects, distanced itself from the attack. The country's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called Rahman to express his condolences and made assurances that those who led the attack would be punished. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also strongly condemned the suicide bombing.
The Secretary General extends his heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims and wishes a prompt recovery to those injured. He calls on the Pakistani authorities to bring those responsible to justice.
The UN chief also denounced all instances of terrorism and attacks against civilians, adding that he stands in solidarity with the government and the people of Pakistan in combating the scourge. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
The world's largest youth camp, the World Scout Jamboree, has opened in South Korea. The event takes place at Haemangum, Jeollabuk-do province on the country's west coast, bringing together some 43,000 teenagers from 158 countries. Running from the 1st to the 12th of August, a variety of programs are scheduled, including international food exchanges, a Korean temple stay, and a K-pop concert. It is the second time the country has hosted the event, which is held every 4 years and aims to promote friendship and diplomacy through youth cultural exchanges. This also coincides with the 100th anniversary of the Korea Scout Association. Amid growing popularity of plant-based meat, the industry here in South Korea has largely relied on imported ingredients. But a South Korean research team has developed a technology that will replace those ingredients using a domestic soybean variety called Miso. Our Chung Eun-ju has a story.
Plant-based meat substitutes are plant-based proteins that are similar in taste and texture to actual meat. Simply put, they are meat-free meat dishes. Such alternatives have started to attract consumer attention by not only imitating meat, but also embodying the flavor and texture of the real thing. According to Euromonitor, a market research company, the South Korean meat substitute market was worth 8 billion won in 2019, but has been growing steadily and surpassed 20 billion won, or roughly $15 million last year. Soy protein isolate from soybeans is a key ingredient in making meat substitutes, but until now this could not be produced in South Korea, so manufacturers had to rely on imports. A South Korean research team, however, has recently developed a technology that may replace soy protein isolate by mixing starch, gluten, and flour made from a South Korean soybean variety called Miso.
Meat substitutes are usually made from soy protein isolate. This study is significant as we discovered we can make meat alternatives with South Korean soybeans that haven't gone through the protein separation process.
The research team proved through testing that using local materials produces a softer texture than when using imported soy protein isolate. GMOs are also not detected in South Korean soybeans, increasing consumer safety.
Through this research, we expect domestic soybeans to be used in a variety of processed food ingredients that will greatly contribute to improving the self-sufficiency rate of South Korean soybeans.
The Rural Development Administration plans to continue developing soybean varieties suitable for meat alternatives and introduce new technology to the field. Chung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Beijing, at least 2 people have died and over 30,000 have been evacuated amid major flooding and landslides in the capital and other parts of northern China. Torrential downpours from Storm Doksuri over the weekend caused Beijing to receive the equivalent of July's annual rainfall in just 3 days. The death toll is expected to rise, and the city has issued a red alert, the most severe weather warning in its 4-tier system. Subways have been closed, flights delayed, and tourist attractions, including the Forbidden City, are off limits. Businesses have also been ordered to allow employees to work from home. Now, coup leaders in Niger have accused France on Monday of planning a military intervention to reinstate the ousted president, Mohamed Bazoum. They said Niger's fallen government had authorized the country's former colonial ruler to carry out strikes to free Bazoum. France has not confirmed or denied the allegation, instead saying that its focus is to guarantee the security of its nationals. This comes after the first photo of Bazoum since the coup was released. In it, the ousted leader is seen meeting with Chad's president for in-depth talks to find a peaceful resolution. Bazoum has been confined to the presidential palace since Wednesday, after his presidential guard forcefully took power. And finally, actor and comedian Paul Rubens, best known for his character Pee Wee Herman, has died at the age of 70. According to his publicist, Rubens died on Sunday following a 6-year battle with cancer. Rubens created and portrayed the popular 1980s character Pee Wee Herman, recognizable in a tight-fitting grey suit, a red bow tie, and an iconic laugh. He appeared in several films, including the 1985 flick Pee Wee's Big Adventure and the Emmy Award-winning TV series Pee Wee's Playhouse. But the character was put aside for over 2 decades after Rubens was arrested for indecent exposure in 1991. Although the charges were dropped, the incident ruined his reputation. Rubens eventually brought Pee Wee back in 2010 for a Broadway show, and in 2016 for a Netflix movie. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. A wave of deep, blasting heat continues to sweep Korea, with temperatures to rise a bit higher than Monday, with most parts under a heat wave warning. Those of us in the capital area should have a strong umbrella handy. It looks like it will rain heavily this afternoon, with up to 60 millimeters expected. The rest of the southern regions are under strong sunshine. Highs in most parts are hovering around 35 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Take care during this massive heat wave. Now, we are looking at frequent passing rain this week, while the intense heat stays with us through next week. Now, giving you an update on the 6th typhoon of the season, Kanun. Right now, the typhoon is passing through the coast on the southeast of Okinawa, Japan. It could gradually change its course northeastward by the end of the week, possibly heading towards the Korean peninsula. So please keep updated with the latest weather information. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. It's looking to be another sweltering day and night, but you might want to take a step outside to get a glimpse of the supermoon. That is when a full moon appears at the moon's closest point to Earth, so it seems brighter and bigger than usual. In Korea, people wish upon a full moon, believing it will bring a good luck or make their wish come true. That comes from common ritual seen during Daeboreum, which celebrates the first full moon of the year, as well as Chuseok, Korean Thanksgiving, which sees the brightest full moon. But wherever you are, hope you all get a chance to make a wish. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.